today we're going to talk about this 2012 800 cat, which is eating belts for supper. No one's ever heard of a 2012 cat eating a belt for supper, right? So in 2012 they come out with the new Procross chassis, and especially in the 1100 turbos they would just chomp belts for breakfast, lunch, and supper. And anyway, there was a whole bunch of different countermeasures that Cat came out with. There was a bunch of decal kits that the aftermarket came out with, calling them the belt eaters, and it was all true. So in the shop today, we've got a 2012 800 Cat, and I think it's been stretched to a 141. Let's have a little peek at it here. And it is chomping belts as soon as you put them on. Apparently you don't even have to start the sled and it blows a belt. It's not that bad. So, a couple things that we're going to check. I believe that every time a belt blows, it's because of heat. Now, where does the heat come from? It could be a lot of different things. Bushings in your clutches. There's a cover bushing and there's a bushing on your movable sheave on your primary. If those go, your sheave is going to not be parallel with the back sheave. It's going to create heat. If your motor's hot, you can have perfectly aligned clutches and everything could be tickety-boo. Your motor's running like 180 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to thermal bridge that heat through the crankshaft, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen this. And you're going to have a lot of heat just from the thermal bridging of them connected together and conducting through the clutches. So that's a big thing. I saw that on a buddy's 850 Skidoo last winter. It was really bad. What else have we got? Clutch alignment. That's the big one. On the older sleds, we could float the secondary. So what I mean by that is it would make the secondary clutch float along the jack shaft. So it would kind of self-align as it shifted. I like to do that with Firecats, non-dime drive Firecats. On the 2016 and up Procross cats, you can't do that. It's on a spline. What else we've got? We talked about clutch alignment, parallelism between the clutches. This can be changed because your motor mounts are wore out or the motor's moving when you're coming onto it. Some sleds come with some power motor mounts right from the factory. I'm thinking the 850 doos. Everyone talks about that. The motors are moving. Trying to get rid of vibration, they'll put softer mounts in or whatnot, and under load they're pulling the clutches together, which pulls them out of parallel. Let me see, thermal bridging, your belt slipping. So when your belt slips, that can cause issues too, especially if it's a consistent problem. In 2012, I think they had like 24, 38 gears in the thing. And so they were geared really tall. They were geared for like 120, 125 miles an hour. And as the years went on, they started to gear down and they put more ventilation, built more ventilation into the chassis. So the covers are different. This here's a 2012 cover. See, there's nothing up here for bringing any air onto the primary. And this is 2017 cover here, and it has a great big air vent that blows right in through these ducts here and up here. I think this one has the top one, yeah. So this new duct blows right on the clutches to try to keep them cool. So what can you do for countermeasures? If everything's tickety-boo and your clutches are like new, your bushings are fine, your belt's not slipping. If you have an 084 belt, it's probably slipping. 083 won't slip, but they'll wear out in like 1,000 miles from new. You won't have any adjustment left in your clutch. If you drive like we do, you've got 1,000 miles in that belt, and it's just going to narrow itself in so much. It's not stretching, it's narrowing, falling down in the sheave. You're out of adjustment. The belt to have for the 800 cats, from experience, is the Ultimax XS800. Little secret for you, it's the best of both worlds. So that's a little bit about belt compounds. If it's slipping, you're going to create heat. Snow dust on it's going to create heat. Anytime I've ever blown a belt on my 2016, which has the team clutches, it's when I'm on and off the throttle in powder and I am not being nice. So driving habits, I know how I can blow a belt. by driving habits. I can drive 100 miles an hour all day long, and my clutches will be cold. And then I get in the powder and I get on and off the throttle with 21, 41 gears and still blow a belt. So back to gears. 2012, they come out with really tall gears. The clutches are actually bigger. Team clutch. I'd like to do another video on this later. Team clutch is an 8-inch. A cat clutch is 8 1/4. The hub on a cat secondary is 4 1/4. So your small gears 4 1/4 and your big gears 8 1/4. And on the team you have a 8-inch and a 5-inch hub on your secondary. So you're overdriving more with your cat clutches. That's why in 2016 everyone said, oh, the team clutches are slower. Well, you're not getting the overdrive. And the weird thing is the cat gear charts show you mile an hour, you put your track pitch in on how many teeth you have on your drivers and blah blah blah, but the gear charts are the same. But the math here, these clutches are overdriving better than the team clutches. So if you're running a team clutch and you want more mile an hour, you got to go a little taller on your gears. So back to gears. 2012, they had really tall gears, which is going to load the clutches harder, which is probably going to create more heat. 2013, I'm not sure what they ran for gears, but by the time they get to 2016, the ZR8000, which is what I own, had 22 48 gears in it. 100 mile an hour, wide open, completely out of gears, clutch as cold as a cucumber, had the ventilation on the side, team clutches, 084 belt. Like, you couldn't blow a belt off that on the trail. And the gears were really low. I couldn't get any top end of my 03 F7 would just walk past it, still will. And anyway, so if you look at all of the progression over the years, the cat started with really tall gears in 2012, and then they ended up going until 2016. They went in 2017, which is what this ZR is, 8000. They went to a 22 48 gears. If you look at the 2018 cats, ZRs, same model, they snuck it back to taller gear. They're running 21 41. So they've solved their belt problems. This is a theory. They've solved their belt problems, their belt blowing problems, and they've gone and they've stepped back in the gears. So that said, I'm running 21 41 in my ZR 8000 now, and I've got a little more RPM to play with too. So my top end is back. But in theory, the faster sled should be the 2012 if it had the power to pull the gears that they came with, because it has the big clutches as well. So that was long-winded. Now we're gonna tear the clutches off this thing, and before I do that, I'm gonna pull them together. I'm gonna pull these clutches together. I'm really gonna try to make this move in there. Actually, I can feel a little slop somewhere right now, and it feels like it's that inside bushing on movable sheath. Anyway, we're gonna get into it. This is at another shop, and they just keep rebuilding the clutches, which is another video altogether why I don't believe in rebuilding clutches unless you do a full top to bottom, which will cost you as much as a new clutch if anyone values their time at all after labor. And we're gonna tear this thing apart and hopefully have some solutions and not just send it back out the door and blame it on driving habits or something like that. Stay tuned.